There's a particular kind of silence that happens after a bomb goes off. It's not empty, it's thick, heavy with the ghosts of the sounds that were just there, the echoes of laughter and conversation now replaced by a humming nothingness. For the last 6 months, I've been living inside that silence. The bomb was my life, the fuse was my own selfish dissatisfaction, and the person who lit the match was me. He found out I cheated and just vanished. And the craziest part? The part that claws at my throat every single night when the city outside my window goes quiet? Everyone I know, everyone we knew, thinks I deserve this hollowed-out life I'm left with. They aren't loud about it. It's in their averted eyes, the unanswered texts, the polite but firm social wall that has been erected around me. And maybe they're right. This isn't a story about looking for sympathy. It's an autopsy. It's a story about looking for the black box from the crash, trying to piece together how I flew a perfectly good life, a life some people only dream of, straight into the ground. 5 years. That's not just a number. It's a measure of life. It's 1,825 mornings. Most of those mornings started with the smell of coffee that I didn't make. Liam's coffee. He would get up at dawn, his architect's mind already churning with blueprints and load-bearing walls, and he'd make a full pot. He'd pour my cup, leave it on the nightstand with the one sugar I liked, and be out the door before I even hit the snooze button. That's who he was. A man of quiet, consistent actions. We weren't just a couple. We were an institution in our small circle. Chloe and Liam. It was a brand, a reliable stock you could invest your social energy in. We had the bungalow in East Austin with the iconic blue door that I'd picked out on a whim, and he'd spent a whole weekend painting to perfection. We had Scout, our golden retriever, a goofy, lovable creature that Liam treated like a furry, four-legged son. Our shared Google Calendar was a testament to a life deeply intertwined. Maya's birthday brunch, parent-teacher conference for Liam's niece, pick up redwood stain from Home Depot, Scout's vet apt. It was a life, a real, tangible, beautiful life. Liam saw the world in foundations and support structures. It was his job, but it was also his essence. He designed sustainable community centers and sleek, modern homes. I remember once, he spent an entire evening explaining to me, with sketches on a napkin, how cantilevered architecture worked, how something could look like it was floating on air but was actually supported by an unseen, incredibly strong core. He was describing himself, and he didn't even know it. He was my unseen, incredibly strong core. And I took his strength for granted, assuming it would always be there, no matter how much weight I put on it. Our home smelled of his coffee and the faint, clean scent of sawdust from the workshop he'd built in the garage. He built our dining room table with his own 2 hands, from reclaimed longleaf pine. He said he wanted us to have a place to gather, to build memories. Now I eat takeout over the sink. He was home. A home I started to see as a final destination, not a home base. The steady rhythm of his love, which should have been a comfort, began to feel like a metronome ticking my life away. I work in marketing for a tech startup in the domain. My job is a world of metrics, disruption, viral noise, chasing the next big thing on a 24-hour news cycle. My world was fast, chaotic, and transient. Somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that his steady, quiet love was less like an anchor keeping me safe and more like a chain holding me back. I was restless with the woman I was becoming, so I decided the problem was the man who loved her unconditionally. Have you ever done that? Felt a deep dissatisfaction inside, a void you can't name, and instead of doing the hard work of looking inward, you just projected outward? You repaint the walls of your life, change the furniture, Change the person sleeping next to you, thinking a change of scenery will fix the landscape inside your own head. It's a powerful, insidious, and devastatingly common form of self-deception. Then Ethan walked into my office. He was a freelance photographer our company hired for a new campaign, a disruptor in the wellness space. He was everything Liam wasn't, or rather, everything I'd convinced myself Liam wasn't. Where Liam was solid oak, Ethan was a brush fire. He was spontaneous, his eyes held a restless energy, and he had a tattoo peeking out from the sleeve of his shirt that I wanted to know the story of. When he looked at me, he didn't see the Liam part of Chloe and Liam. He saw a woman in a sharp blazer with a clever marketing pitch, and he found that intriguing. He saw a version of me I desperately wanted to be. Exciting, mysterious, profoundly desired for my mind and my edge, not just my heart. It started with the permissible, professional version of flirting. Late nights at the office, huddled over a laptop, editing photos for the campaign. He'd compliment my eye for composition. You see the story in the image, Chloe. Most marketing people just see the logo placement. He made me feel sharp. Liam made me feel loved. Ethan made me feel impressive. At the time, I foolishly valued the latter more. Those work sessions bled into drinks at a moody, dark wood dive bar on 6th Street, the kind of place Liam would have found structurally unsound. Ethan talked about backpacking through Southeast Asia, about selling his prints on the streets of Paris, about a life of movement and art. He made my beautiful life in Austin, my blue-doored bungalow and my coffee-making boyfriend, feel like a beautifully decorated high-end cage. The first time it happened, in the back seat of his beat-up Jeep Wrangler after far too many old fashions, the city lights blurring through the windows, I felt a nauseating, exhilarating cocktail of guilt and electricity. It was wrong, deeply wrong, but it felt alive. I told myself it was a one-time mistake, a pressure valve release for a life I felt was becoming too pressurized. But that was a lie I told myself to get to sleep that night. It wasn't a one-time thing. It was a beginning. For 3 months, I became a phantom living 2 lives. There was Bungalow Chloe, who kissed Liam goodbye in the morning, who walked Scout along the greenbelt, who picked out tile samples for our bathroom remodel, smiling and nodding. And then there was Downtown Chloe, a creature of secrets and adrenaline, who was sneaking away for clandestine lunches that turned into afternoons in boutique hotels, lying with a chilling, newfound proficiency. I became a master of operational security, a spy in my own life. I bought a burner phone, a cheap prepaid thing from a 7-Eleven. I had vague, elaborate stories about work dinners with my demanding boss, Sarah. I had alibis for my alibis. The mental gymnastics were exhausting. I'd be in a hotel room with Ethan, my phone buzzing with a text from Liam saying, "Hope the dinner isn't too boring. Love you." And I'd feel a pang of something. But then Ethan would pull me closer, and I'd push the feeling down. The validation was a drug, a potent anesthetic for my conscience. He wanted the exciting, witty, independent parts of me, not the woman who had to remember to take the trash out on Tuesdays. The true, gut-wrenching tragedy is that Liam tried. He wasn't oblivious. He felt the tectonic plates of our relationship shifting beneath his feet. He'd planned surprise weekend trips to Fredericksburg, hoping to reconnect over wine tasting and antique shops. He showed up at my office one afternoon with a bouquet of my favorite flowers, peonies, and I felt my heart seize with terror, my eyes darting around to see if Ethan was anywhere in sight. I rushed him out, claiming I had a huge deadline. I saw the flash of hurt in his eyes, but he accepted it, because he trusted me. He once cornered me in the kitchen, his face a mask of genuine concern. He took my hands in his. "Are we okay, Chloe? Seriously, You seem a million miles away. If something's wrong, you can tell me. We can fix anything together." I looked him right in his beautiful, honest, hazel eyes, eyes that had only ever looked at me with adoration, and I lied. I manufactured a tear. I told him I was just profoundly stressed with the new campaign, that I felt like I was failing, that I was scared. I made him feel guilty for adding to my stress by questioning us. "Of course we're okay, babe," I whispered, pulling him into a hug that felt like a betrayal. "Don't you trust me?" I used his single greatest virtue as a weapon against him. That's the part that I will carry with me forever, the sheer, calculated cruelty of it. The end came not with a bang, but with a single, careless, world-shattering click. Liam and I had a shared iCloud account. It was the bedrock of our logistical life. Shared calendars, contacts, notes. It was just practical. We also had several shared photo albums. There was Scout the Puppy Years, a chronological tribute to our dog's awkward phase. There was Colorado Road Trip 22, filled with pictures of us, wind-blown and happy on a mountain peak. And there was a new one he'd created just a week before everything fell apart. It was titled, with his typical sweet earnestness, Anniversary Trip, NYC. He was planning a surprise trip to New York for our 5-year anniversary. In my moments of clarity now, I can see the pictures he added. The lobby of the Bowery Hotel, a menu from a little Italian place in the West Village, a link to tickets for a Broadway show. I was in a downtown hotel room with Ethan. The afternoon light was streaming through the big windows. He'd just said something witty, and I was laughing, my phone unlocked in my hand. A text from him came through, a follow-up to our inside joke, with a picture he'd just taken of me on the rumpled white hotel sheets. It wasn't explicit, but it was undeniably incriminating. Me, in his hotel room, in his bed, looking happy and illicit. In a moment of supreme, toxic arrogance, I took a screenshot. I was going to send it to my best friend Maya, with some stupid caption like, "My afternoons are more interesting than yours." It was a pathetic cry for validation of my secret life. My thumb, slick with lotion, slipped on the glass screen. Instead of tapping Maya's name in my iMessage, my thumb hit the share button. And in that pop-up menu of recent contacts and suggested apps, my eyes landed on the familiar cloud icon next to the words, "Add to shared album." And right below it, the name of the most recent album. Anniversary Trip, NYC. My heart didn't just stop. It felt like it was ripped out of my chest. I must have tapped it. With a trembling hand, I navigated to my Photos app. And there it was, a small red notification badge. And in the album, nestled between a picture of the Brooklyn Bridge and a screenshot of a restaurant reservation, was the evidence of my betrayal. A high-resolution image of my secret life, uploaded directly into the heart of the future he was so lovingly and meticulously planning for us. I deleted it with a frantic jab of my finger. A millisecond, a second, maybe. But I knew. I knew it was too late. I knew how push notifications work. I knew that on his phone at his desk, on his iPad at the construction site, on his MacBook at home, a little banner would have appeared on the screen. Chloe added a new photo to Anniversary Trip, NYC. The blood drained from my face. The room started to spin. Ethan was asking what was wrong, why I looked like I'd seen a ghost. I couldn't form words. I just grabbed my clothes, my purse, my dignity, what was left of it, and I ran. I fled the scene of the crime, leaving him utterly confused. The whole drive home, a 20-minute trip that felt like an eternity, I rehearsed a million desperate, pathetic lies. My phone has a virus! I got hacked, can you believe it? I have no idea how that got there, it's so weird. Have you ever tried to outrun a bullet after you've already been shot? That's what it felt like. A desperate, futile race against a reality that was already unfolding. I was just praying he hadn't seen it, praying he was in a meeting, that his phone was on silent, that by some miracle of God or Apple, the notification had failed. When I walked into the bungalow, the silence hit me first. It wasn't a peaceful silence. It was the silence of a vacuum. It was the sound of absence. Scout wasn't at the door, his tail thumping against the wall in his usual ecstatic greeting. That was the first stab of cold fear. I found him in his crate in the living room, a place he only ever went when we were both leaving the house for an extended period. He had a fresh bowl of water and a new, unopened chew toy resting beside him. He looked up at me, not with excitement, but with a deep, canine confusion and sadness. "Liam?" I called out. My voice was a thin, reedy thing, an alien sound in the sudden vastness of our home. No answer. I walked down the hall, my footsteps echoing unnervingly on the hardwood floors. I pushed open the door to our bedroom, and the sight before me was one of such cold, calculated precision that it was more terrifying than any scene of rage could ever be. His side of the closet was empty. Not just the clothes, the wooden hangers he preferred, the shoe trees for his work shoes, the canvas laundry bin, all gone. His watch box on the dresser, a gift from me for his 30th birthday, was gone. The stack of architectural digests he kept on his nightstand, gone. In the bathroom, his toothbrush, his electric razor, his bottle of cologne that I loved, his side of the medicine cabinet, wiped clean, as if he'd never been there at all. This wasn't an act of passion. This was an act of severance, a planned, methodical, surgical erasure. He had taken only what was undeniably, unequivocally his. He left everything we had chosen together. The ridiculously expensive charcoal gray sectional sofa from Restoration Hardware that we'd argued over for weeks was still there, a monument to our shared indecision. The framed photo of us from that Colorado trip, our faces bright with cold and happiness, was still on the wall, mocking me with a version of myself I no longer recognized. He had surgically removed himself from our life. He left me alone in the museum of our relationship, the curator of a collection of artifacts that no longer had any meaning. No note, no text, no single angry email, just gone. I grabbed my phone, my hands shaking so badly I could barely unlock it. I called him, straight to the generic, robotic operator's voice. "The person you are trying to reach is unavailable." He'd changed his personal, goofy voicemail message that we'd recorded together, the one where I burst out laughing at the end. It was gone. I texted him, a frantic, desperate barrage. "Liam, please call me. We need to talk. There's a huge misunderstanding. I can explain. Please don't do this. I love you." The messages sent, but the bar below them remained a stark, unforgiving green. Not the delivered in blue I was so used to seeing. His iMessage was off. I went on Instagram. I typed his handle into the search bar. User not found. My blood ran cold. He hadn't just blocked me. He deactivated his entire account. Facebook, the same. It was a digital, scorched earth policy. In the space of less than 3 hours, he had vanished from my physical and digital life so completely, so utterly, that it felt like I was losing my mind, like I had perhaps imagined the last 5 years. The panic that set in was no longer just a feeling. It was a physical assault. I couldn't breathe. My chest was a tight iron band. I collapsed onto the floor he had refinished himself, and I threw up. I was having a full-blown panic attack, hyperventilating, lost in a storm of my own making. I paced the now cavernous house for hours, with only Scout following me, his claws clicking softly on the floor, his head cocked, watching me with confused, deeply sad eyes. He knew. The dog knew before anyone else did that our pack was broken. The next 48 hours were a descent into a special kind of hell, a hell of polite, impenetrable walls. I called his mom, Catherine, a woman who had always treated me like a daughter. Her voice was cool, distant, and clearly rehearsed. "He's okay, Chloe. He's safe. He just needs some space." "Space? Catherine, he took all of his things. He's gone. Where is he?" I pleaded, my voice cracking with a desperation she had never heard from me before. "He asked us to respect his privacy," she said, her voice unwavering. "I think, under the circumstances, you should do the same." And then, the click of the phone hanging up. His brother, David, was the same. A wall of polite, familial loyalty. They had circled the wagons around their own, and I was, for the first time, on the outside. Then I started calling our friends, our mutual friends. In those first few calls, there was genuine confusion and concern for both of us. "What the hell? Did you guys have a big fight? He'll cool off." I stuck to my pathetic, flimsy story. "I have no idea. I came home from work and he was just gone. I'm so worried." But by the third day, the narrative had shifted. The truth had started to seep out. My best friend, Maya, the woman I had chosen to be my maid of honor one day, called me. Her voice was different. The easy warmth was gone, replaced by a strained, careful neutrality. "Chloe," she said, and her voice was flat, devoid of its usual melody. "I need you to be completely honest with me right now. Did something happen? Something you are not telling me?" "Maya, I swear to you, I don't know what is going on," I cried, and the tears were real, tears of terror and self-pity. "Because Liam called me," she said, and the silence that followed her words was deafening. "He called me and Ryan. He was broken. He didn't say much. He just said he was sorry for disappearing like this, but that he couldn't stay. And he said to ask you about Ethan." The world tilted on its axis and spun out of control. He hadn't just told his family. He had armed our friends, my support system. He hadn't attacked me. He hadn't slandered me. He just gave them the key, a single, quiet name, and he trusted that the truth would do the rest of the work for him. I don't know who he's talking about," I stammered, the lie tasting like ash in my mouth. But Maya knew me too well. She knew my tells. There was a long, heavy pause on the other end of the line, and then she said something that broke a piece of my heart I didn't know was still intact. "I really, really hope that's true, Chloe, because I have been defending you for 2 straight days, telling everyone there must be some other explanation." She didn't have to say the rest. "And you're making me look like an idiot." That was the beginning of the quiet shunning. Texts to our group chat, Austin Crew, went unanswered. My calls were met with polite excuses and promises to call back that never materialized. An invitation to the weekly trivia night at the draft house we'd attended religiously for years suddenly never arrived. I was being quietly, politely, and with devastating efficiency excommunicated from the life we had built together. Liam didn't have to play the villain. He didn't have to orchestrate a campaign against me. He just presented the facts and let people make their own choice. And one by one, they all chose him. Can you blame them? It's a simple moral equation. Who do you side with? The steady, kind, honest man who was planning a surprise anniversary trip for his partner? Or the woman who was taking screenshots in a hotel room with another man? In my spiraling desperation, I did the one thing I shouldn't have done. The one thing that proved just how lost I was. I called Ethan. I was looking for, I don't know what I was looking for. An ally in my own delusion? Comfort? Someone? Anyone? To tell me I wasn't a monster? We met at a generic coffee shop on the other side of town, a place with no memories. He looked nervous. He couldn't sit still. He kept looking over his shoulder as if Liam was going to burst through the door. "This is a total mess, Chloe," he said, not even making eye contact, just stirring his black coffee so aggressively I thought the ceramic cup would crack. A mess? Ethan, my life just imploded. It's gone. He's gone. My friends hate me. My life is gone. "Well, what did you really expect was going to happen?" he asked, and the casual, dismissive cruelty of the question took my breath away. "We were having fun, you know? It was a vibe. I never thought, I mean, you guys were serious. You had a house, a dog, a whole life. You were part of that fun, Ethan," I hissed, my voice cracking, tears of rage and humiliation welling in my eyes. "You told me you were falling for me. You said I inspired you." He had the decency to finally look away, a faint blush of shame on his cheeks. "Look, things were getting a little intense, and now this. It's too much drama. I think I'm going to be sent on a long-term assignment for the company soon. To London. It's probably for the best." And there it was. My co-conspirator, my partner in crime, the man for whom I had torched my entire beautiful life, was politely and calmly backing out of the burning building, leaving me alone in the rubble. The deep, soulful connection I had built up in my head was, for him, a temporary escape from his own boredom. I was a momentary diversion, a chapter in his cool, unattached story. And now that things were complicated, the chapter was over. I walked out of that coffee shop feeling a loneliness so profound, so absolute, it felt like a physical weight pressing down on my chest. I had lost my partner, I had lost my friends, and now I had lost even the flimsy illusion of my affair. The only person I had left was the woman who had made all these catastrophic choices, and I hated her more than anyone. The next few months were a grim exercise in survival. I hired a lawyer. I sold the bungalow. I couldn't stand the silence, the ghosts in every room, the indentation on his side of the mattress that refused to fade. Liam's lawyer communicated with mine. It was all handled through cold, efficient emails and DocuSign. The division of our assets was simple because he wanted nothing that we had bought together. He just wanted out. I had to find a new apartment, a small, anonymous one-bedroom in a sprawling complex with thin walls and no character. It was the opposite of our blue-doored bungalow in every way. I started seeing a therapist in a desperate attempt to keep my head above water. She helped me put words to the chaos in my mind. Shame, grief, self-loathing, abandonment. She helped me stop having daily panic attacks. She was kind, but she was firm. She didn't let me wallow in my victim narrative for long. But even with therapy, the obsession didn't fade. It festered. I needed to see him. I needed to understand. How could a person just turn off 5 years of deep, genuine love like a light switch? I needed the fight we never had. I needed to scream and cry and hear him scream back. I needed to see him hurt. I needed to see that I had mattered enough to cause a real, lasting wound. His silence was a statement that I was so insignificant, I wasn't even worth the energy of an argument. That was an agony worse than any screaming match could ever be. My older brother, Ben, a no-nonsense attorney in Chicago, was the only one in my life who was brutally, painfully honest with me. He didn't sugarcoat it. "I love you, Chloe. You're my little sister," he said on one of our strained weekly calls. "But you screwed up. Royally. You built a life with a truly good man, a man who adored you, And you took a sledgehammer to it for what? Some excitement? What you can't stand isn't that he left. It's how he left. He didn't give you a stage. He didn't give you a chance to perform your remorse, to spin the story, to cry and make it about your needs and your feelings and how lonely you were. He took away your power to control the narrative. He just opted out. And it is driving you absolutely crazy because for the first time, you've completely lost control of the story. He was right. I had a whole script prepared in my head for the day I might eventually get caught. There would be tears. There would be heart-wrenching excuses about feeling neglected and unseen. There would be desperate promises that it would never, ever happen again. All of it designed to manage his reaction, to soften the blow, to make him share the blame, to manipulate him back into a space of forgiveness. He robbed me of that pathetic performance. He simply refused to buy a ticket to the show. Then, about 4 months after he left, on a Tuesday afternoon when I was mindlessly scrolling through Instagram, a habit I couldn't seem to break, I saw it. Maya, my former best friend, had posted a picture to her main feed, not even a temporary story, a permanent grid post. It was a big, sunny group shot from a weekend barbecue at someone's house. And there, in the background, standing by the grill, was Liam. He was laughing, a genuine, unburdened laugh, holding a beer, and his arm was slung casually and comfortably around the shoulders of a woman I had never seen before. She was beautiful, but not in a flashy way. She had dark, curly hair and a wide, easy smile, and she was looking up at him with an expression of such open, uncomplicated affection that it felt like a physical blow. Have you ever felt your stomach drop so fast it feels like it slammed into the floor? I had to sit down on my cold, unfamiliar apartment floor. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just that he had moved on. That was to be expected. It was that he looked happy. He looked light, genuinely, effortlessly happy and at peace. While I had been slogging through the thick, toxic wreckage of our life, having panic attacks and losing friends and hating myself, he had been healing, moving forward, building something new, with someone new. The raw, cosmic injustice of it felt suffocating. I deserved to be miserable. I knew that. But shouldn't he be too? At least for a little while? Shouldn't he be suffering just as much as I was? The picture was proof that my punishment was mine alone. His was temporary. That's when I made my next, and perhaps most desperate mistake. I dove into a rabbit hole of online sleuthing, the kind of desperate, shame-fueled, late-night digging you do when you hate yourself but can't look away. It didn't take long. The woman's name was Sophia. A quick search showed she was a landscape designer. They had met through a mutual friend from his firm, and from the looks of her friend's tagged photos, they were serious. I needed to see her. I needed to understand what she had that I didn't. I needed to see the woman who had so effortlessly, so quickly, taken the place that I had fought so hard to earn, and then so carelessly, so thoughtlessly, thrown away. I found out where her design studio was, and one sunny afternoon, fueled by a toxic, volatile cocktail of grief, jealousy, and a desperate need for answers, I went there. I left a cryptic message with her receptionist. "My name is Chloe. It's about Liam. I'd like to talk." I can't believe she actually agreed to meet me. She suggested a public park, a neutral ground. She chose a bench overlooking the river. She was even more beautiful in person. She had a calmness about her, a quiet self-possession that I instantly envied and resented. She was everything I wasn't, centered, peaceful, unbroken. "Chloe?" she asked. Her voice was gentle, not accusatory. She sat on the other end of the bench, creating a respectful distance between us. Thank you for coming, I managed to say, my own voice sounding weak to my ears. To be honest, I almost didn't, she said, her gaze fixed on the water. Liam doesn't know I'm here. He would not be happy about this. He believes the past should stay there. But I was curious. Curious about what? She finally turned to look at me fully, and there was no malice in her eyes, just a quiet, searching intelligence. About the ghost, she said simply. I must have looked as confused as I felt, because she elaborated. You're the ghost that haunts the quiet moments. Not in a scary way, but you're there. You're in the way he sometimes gets a distant look in his eyes when a certain song comes on the radio. You're in the way he flinched, just slightly, the first time I suggested we get a dog. He is happy with me, Chloe. He's truly, deeply happy. But I know there's a part of his history, a foundational part, that is shrouded in this intense, silent pain. I wanted to understand the person who caused it. I felt a pathetic, shameful flicker of triumph. So I did leave a mark. I wasn't completely, utterly erased. Can I ask you something very directly? She said, her voice still soft, but with an underlying firmness that commanded respect. Why did you do it? Why did you cheat on him? No one had ever asked me so plainly. Not my friends in their polite avoidance, not my brother in his angry lectures. I opened my mouth, and the well-rehearsed lines, the ones I'd perfected in therapy and in my own mind, came tumbling out. Things were complicated. We had grown apart. I felt neglected, unseen. I was unhappy. She listened patiently, her hands resting calmly in her lap, nodding slightly as if to show she was hearing me. She didn't interrupt. When I was finally done, the pathetic excuses hanging in the air between us, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at me and asked a question so simple and so profound it completely disarmed me. And you thought that would fix it? The simplicity of it shattered my defenses. I wasn't thinking about fixing anything, I stammered, the truth finally bubbling to the surface. I wasn't really thinking at all, not about the consequences. I think you were thinking, she countered, her voice still gentle, but clear as a bell. You were thinking about what you wanted in that moment. That's human. But you weren't thinking about him. You weren't thinking about what your choices would do to a man like him. She paused, choosing her words with care. Liam is the most fundamentally honest and loyal person I have ever met. For him, trust isn't just the most important thing in a relationship. It is the only thing. It's the air. It's the foundation. Everything else is just decoration. And you didn't just crack the foundation, Chloe. You poisoned the air. For a man like Liam, the moment you made the choice to betray his trust, the relationship as he understood it, it ceased to exist. In his mind, there was nothing left to fight for. The house had already burned down. But 5 years, I whispered, the words a raw plea from my throat. You don't just throw away 5 years of a life without a single conversation. That's the part I think you need to understand, for your own sake, she said, her body turning towards me slightly, a gesture of quiet emphasis. In his mind, he didn't throw it away. You did, when you let Ethan into your life. He just cleaned up the rubble. Any conversation with you after the fact would have been, what? You crying? You explaining your feelings? You trying to make him feel sorry for you? To make him share the blame for your actions? For him, that's not a conversation. That's a negotiation. And for Liam, his trust, his self-respect, those things are non-negotiable. Every single word she spoke was a perfectly aimed arrow, piercing through the thick, layered armor of my self-delusion. My brother was right. Sophia was right. I had never really known him, not the core of him. I had known the version of him that loved me, the man who made me coffee and built me tables, but I had never bothered to truly see or respect the man himself, his core principles, the lines in the sand that he would never, ever cross. "Why are you telling me all of this?" I finally asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Why are you being so kind to me?" "Because," she said, and her gaze was filled with an incredible, unexpected compassion that finally broke me. "I love him, and he can't fully build a new foundation with me as long as he thinks the ghost of his past is still rattling at the windows, waiting for a different ending. And you can't move on as long as you believe there is a different ending to this story. There isn't. The story is over, Chloe." She stood up, smoothing down her dress. "And now you have to write a new one. I truly hope you do. I hope you write a brilliant one." And then she turned and walked away, leaving me alone on that park bench with the full, crushing, and somehow, in a strange way, liberating weight of the absolute truth. She hadn't come to gloat, or to fight, or to mark her territory. She had come to give me the closure that Liam never could. She had come to set me free, to set them both free. I don't know how long I sat there. I walked home in a daze as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. And for the first time since that horrible day, I didn't feel rage or injustice or a burning need for revenge. I just felt a profound, bottomless sadness and a startling, painful clarity. The fight I had so desperately wanted all these months wasn't with Liam. It was with myself. And I had been losing, badly, for a long, long time. It's been 2 months since that day in the park. The silence in my small, characterless apartment is different now. It's no longer the heavy, suffocating, accusatory silence of a bomb site. It's just quiet. It's the silence of a blank page waiting for the first word. It's terrifying, but it's no longer empty. It feels like possibility. I'm still piecing things together. I'm still dealing with the daily consequences of my choices. I still have moments of deep regret that take my breath away, but I'm not running from them anymore. I ended my story with Liam. It was a beautiful story, and I was the one who wrote a tragic, unnecessary ending. I can't unwrite that chapter. But as Sophia, a woman who owed me nothing, so kindly said, I can write a new one. I'm starting to think that maybe closure isn't something someone else gives you. It's not a dramatic, movie-ending fight or a tearful, soul-bearing conversation of forgiveness. Maybe true closure is just looking at the wreckage of your own making, finally understanding the series of choices that led you there, and choosing, with intention, to walk away from it, not back into it. Maybe it's taking that first, terrifying, unsteady step onto a new, unwritten page. I don't know if I deserve happiness yet. I don't know if that's a word I'm allowed to use for myself. But for the first time in a very long time, I think I might deserve a chance to try.